Hey guys, welcome to Make It or Break It, a show we came up with so we'd have an excuse to spend our remaining yearly budget on a bunch of goofy customizable plates.
Holy spreadsheets, Joe. Today we're talking about 90s comic book movies.
On the internet?
No.
What?
No one's ever done that.
Man, guys, every time we say something positive, this plate has a bigger chance of surviving and being put on the hutch of good movies. But everything negative we say gets this poor, sweet plate closer to being broken, safely in a controlled environment.
Joe, if the plate makes it to the hutch, can we paint over it with a better 90s comic book movie?
Yes.
All right. I pick Blade.
I pick The Crow.
Blade is the reason we got X-Men. Blade is the reason we got Iron Man. Blade is the reason we got Man of Steel, if Man of Steel floats your boat.
It was dope because it was so dark about vampires and it wasn't a superhero movie.
Blade was the bomb. Blade needs to come back, and Wesley Snipes could totally come back.
Wesley Snipes is just the ultimate badass. He's half man, half vampire. It's got amazing action, and who doesn't love a vampire hunter?
It's a perfect adaptation too, because in the comics he's supposed to be like this weird sort of stuffy British guy, and it's just a really cool choice to play him the way Wesley Snipes played him.
It was about vampires that didn't sparkle, by the way. Didn't sparkle.
I will debate you that the Blood Rave is the coolest opening scene in a comic book movie.
Ain't no party like a vampire party because a vampire party don't stop. Vampire party, centuries long. Undead.
It's like a bubble party in Ibiza gone so intensely wrong.
My question is, if you guys already had all of that blood, why did you need the rave? It feels incredibly wasteful. I love Batman Returns. I love the weird holiday theme. Michelle Pfeiffer at her just peak Michelle Pfeiffer. It's the reason I wanted to get a stun gun, because of what she does at the end of Maximilian.
How about a kiss, Auntie Claus?
She was alluring, and she was scary.
Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman, second only to Heath Ledger's Joker.
Her breakdown in her apartment is awesome.
You have Danny DeVito eating raw fish and biting people's nose.
And it's just his little flipper hands. I don't even know if they would allow a character to be that, like, unattractive and off-putting today. He was so good.
It is so just unrelentingly weird and grim and grotesque.
The worst continuity in history. When he has the mask on, he has the black eye makeup on, but when he takes the mask off, there isn't any.
If I had one bad thing to say about Batman Returns, it's why we got Joel Schumacher and Batman Forever, because there was way too much weird, sexy Batman stuff in it to sell toys to children, and it really freaked the studio out.
Let's go with the neon guy. This isn't working for us anymore.
Joel Schumacher was trying to like pull some kind of like Springtime for Hitler murder of the Batman franchise, like just make it so bad on purpose.
There's a scene where it kind of shows Harvey Dent's origin story as Two-Face, and Batman is in the courtroom. That's just so weird that Batman would be like sitting in the courtroom like, what did he say? I'm next. I'm Batman.
Batman Forever is the loudest movie ever made. All the dialogue is at an 11, just Jim Carrey's at an 11. Tommy Lee Jones is at a very unfortunate 11.
You have Tommy Lee Jones who's trying to out Jim Carrey. And me! So you just have the two most obnoxious villains ever in Batman history.
I think maybe that's the reason he's so grumpy now, is because he realizes what a huge mistake he made and he's still trying to like get his street cred back.
The music is at a 12. Like the entire movie is just like that's the score of Batman Forever.
They had the glow stick gang and whatnot with Chris O'Donnell fighting him because he found the Batcave. First of all, how is the Batcave that easy to find?
Val Kilmer was great in one of, it's crazy to me that one of his most restrained performances is as Batman.
Nicole Kidman is just there to just be like a weird sex object.
Super, super thirsty for Batman.
My place, midnight.
Ooh, bat nipples. Yeah.
And then of course Nipples on the Batsuit, which is, I think, the bravest, most wonderful choice a director's ever made, and I will laud him until the end of time for it.
Yeah, that movie was painful. That movie was just excruciating to get through.
Batman and Robin is not a bad movie because it's schlocky and campy. It's because they did camp terribly. And that's kind of unforgivable.
It's a weird mess. George Clooney, he's gone on record many times saying like, I shouldn't have done that.
George Clooney's Batman was the most campiest and cheesiest Batman ever. He had stuff in the utility belt that we didn't know you needed to have.
A bat bomb?
Bane is one of like the smartest, greatest Batman villains, and here he's just like... In the comic books, he's this really eloquent, well-spoken character. I don't know why they went that way. Uma Thurman looks great, but she knows exactly what movie she's in.
Uma Thurman, girl, you worked so hard and we never deserve you.
Batgirl had 6-inch heels. What crime fighter wears 6-inch stilettos?
We've got Arnold Schwarzenegger just making an ass out of himself, making ridiculous puns.
All right, everyone, chill, cool party, kick some ice.
That was our governor.
You know what? Schwarzenegger doing puns, let him do them.
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age. Rough crowd up here. It's a terrible line. Shame on you. Phantasm was so cool because it's this rare example of like a cartoon series getting a movie that like doesn't just work, but it excels.
I just remember seeing it and being shocked that there was blood in it. Batman and Joker get into a fight and the Joker's like bleeding and Batman's bleeding. Cartoons didn't do that back then.
Like if you really love Batman and you haven't seen Mask of the Phantasm, just do yourself a favor and see it.
It's literally the good version of The Dark Knight Rises.
The Crow, one of the great soundtracks of all time.
The music of The Crow was fine. I mean, it was very much, it was just a 90s soundtrack.
And I played the crap out of it.
The mythological elements of The Crow are a lot bigger because of what happened to Brandon Lee. But I think if that hadn't happened, The Crow would still hold up. It would still stand up on its own.
I thought they did a really good job in handling a really bad situation with losing their actor in terms of how they were able to kind of use CGI as a tool to kind of show that he was still there.
But it was also interesting for how many goth kids at my school suddenly became The Crow.
The Crow is the ultimate emo superhero.
Is it the most emo movie of all time? It is the hot topic of films. It is.
If you had to show one scene of Captain America to be like, this is why this movie's garbage, it would be the final battle where there are, I think there's like 3 minutes and there's something like 80 edits. Go back and watch our Honest trailer for this because it's just bonkers filmmaking. You know, this movie had no budget.
They didn't know how to make superhero movies. It was just like a TV show stretched out.
Mr. President, thanks.
It stars Matt Salinger, who's J.D. Salinger, the guy who wrote Catcher in the Rye's son, which is just so bizarre. Like, that's literally the most interesting thing about that movie.
Every time I see myself griping about Captain America the First Avenger, I have to stop myself and be like, remember what it used to be like? And now you're griping about this?
The suit looked horrible. He had the like cloth wings on the side of the helmet.
The Captain America suit was like cutting into the dude's ears, so they just like made fake ears to put on the outside of it.
Just cut holes for the ears, man. It's that easy.
The shield looked like it was plastic.
The Red Skull looks even cheesier.
The Red Skull is in it for like a minute, and then he's got weird makeup on.
It just went directly to video, and if you haven't seen it, do not go seek it out. It is bad.
The Mask comic book is messed up. The Mask just straight up murders people in terrible ways.
Really, the only way that you can do that movie is to make it a comedy and make it cartoony, because the comics are very dark.
Just looking at that year and at Jim Carrey's career, like, my favorites kept on rotating, but The Mask, I think, is the one that impressed me the most.
Height of his powers is Jim Carrey, and literal height of his powers because Ace Ventura was just Jim Carrey, but then The Mask is Jim Carrey then enhanced by a magical id.
Smoking! This was Jim Carrey's chance to be a superhero without being a superhero, but they used a lot of cartoony effects for this one.
They were using kind of rudimentary early CG to kind of get that cartoonish effect. I think it looks really cool.
You have like the big Cuban Pete dance number. When I was a kid, I knew like every step.
They call me Cuba Pete. I'm the king of a rumba beat.
And when I play the maracas, I go chick chicky boom, chick chicky boom.
When they were like, let's greenlight a Spawn movie, the first question you ask is, can we make the cape that has a life of its own look cool? And when the answer was no, we can't, then they should not have made a Spawn movie. But they sure made one anyway. And the cape sure looks the way that it looks.
The cape was bad, but the hellscapes in Spawn were the worst. Why do these graphics suck so much? As much as they were great in The Mask, oh my God, were they terrible in Spawn.
When you heard Spawn, you were like, this is gonna be dope. If you knew the comics from Todd McFarlane. It was good at points and bad at the others. Michael Jai White's face looking like Freddy Krueger's backside.
The comic book was like one of the biggest things in comics at the time. Both the book and the movie were just like, okay, we get it, you're edgy or whatever. Ooh, it's in hell, and oh, it's Spawn, and oh, we're gonna cuss.
This poor movie. This is a movie you watch and you're just like, oh man. Every time they yelled cut, all of these guys just must have just sighed.
Every time somebody farts, a demon catches her wings.
Just sadly.
John Leguizamo is unrecognizable.
You heard John Leguizamo and you was like, what is he gonna be? He gonna be the Violator. You were like, huh? How's this gonna work?
Yuck! I hate anchovies.
Maggot pizza, it's gross and it's stupid.
And Leguizamo actually ate the bugs. Who needed that? John Leguizamo, don't let people do that to you. You ain't gotta eat bugs, you're too talented.
You gotta give props. John Leguizamo eating maggots or Leonardo DiCaprio eating a bison liver in The Revenant?
I think the suits from the first Ninja Turtles movie like still work. They were from Henson. They looked like the turtle characters so much more than the Michael Bay movies. Like the Michael Bay movies, they were just like, what would a mutant turtle really look like? And it's like, it would look like an abomination.
They ordering pizza from Domino's, and Domino's pizza don't look like that, by the way. Let me tell you, Domino's Pizza has never looked like what it did in the Turtles movie.
It's still the best Turtles movie there's ever been. Like, it takes the spirit of the black and white comics. The movie was a good bridge for those, because it was violent, but not like too violent.
God, I love being a turtle!
And then someone said, damn.
Damn!
Raphael says damn 9 times, and I've counted it.
I was like, oh. Turtles cussed. It has kind of a dark tone. I mean, there's some very bleak moments in that movie. You know, Raphael is like mortally injured at one point.
We don't talk about all the struggles the Turtles go through. Raphael is dealing with severe depression and anxiety. Okay, Leonardo has bipolar disorder. Michelangelo has ADHD, and Donatello just needs a friend. It is so dark.
Watching Judge Dredd with Sylvester Stallone is just like if you picked up a Judge Dredd comic book and you went, well, this is boring. Let's read something else.
Out of every movie that we've mentioned, including so many bad ones we've talked about today, Judge Dredd is the one that broke me. I have a line, I guess.
I like this movie. I don't give a shit if you don't. This is a really great bad movie. It's just super fun. Sylvester Stallone's ridiculous in it. Rob Schneider's ridiculous in it. Armada Sante is the bad guy, I think, and he's ridiculous in it.
You betray the law!
There's something very charming about Sylvester Stallone and Rob Schneider together.
Rocky and Deuce Bigelow on a weird sci-fi adventure. Sure, why not? You already have my money. I guess I'm in this.
I am the law!
And beyond.
I'm the law.
I am the law!
I can't take him seriously. It's supposed to be this kind of deep thing about, well, what happens when we get rid of due process? Then you have Stallone just, I'm a judge. I'm a judge. There we go. That's it. I'm a judge.
Court's adjourned.
Steel is like if you and your friends had $10 and decided to do a full recreation of Iron Man 1. Steel was John Henry Irons in the comics. It came from the Death of Superman storyline. There were 4 different Superman. For some reason, they chose the least interesting of all of those 4, gave it to a non-actor basketball player, and made one of the worst movies ever made.
Steel is not a good movie, but Shaq is in Steel, which means that it is kind of above criticism, because criticism is this tall, and Shaquille O'Neal was this tall.
We just let Shaq do anything in the 90s. We let him rap, and he came up with some bangers. We let him act.
Blue Chips, Steel, Kazam. Pretty good decade for Shaq.
And he lives in a junkyard that looked like a go-kart track. It was the stupidest thing.
I love that the Steel suit looks like anything you could see at a cosplay convention today. It just looks like it's made of just foam and comfort.
And they somehow squeezed Shaquille O'Neal into a tiny spray-painted silver bat suit and then expected him to look intimidating and fight people.
It is Steel armor and he looks special.
Oh, God. The hammer's so bad.
I'm sorry. Why'd you bring up that horrible?
Steel is DC. Why can't Shaq's Steel be a member of the Justice League? Can we make that happen?
My poor dad. I made my dad go see Steel, and to this day, I think that's why he doesn't love me.
Oh my God, that movie was so bad. It was so bad.
All right, guys, let's check out the final tally. Sorry, but Blade wasn't enough to save 90s comic book movies.
For Batman fans everywhere, I speak clearly and loudly with one voice when I say, this is for Bat Nipples. Don't leave the cave without it. Bat credit card.
Dan, how you feeling?
I'm actually feeling pretty good. That was worth sitting through the Captain America movie.
Was it?
No.